What's up everybody and welcome back to the club. In today's video I will be talking about the update 10.6 and about all the changes what we are going to have in this update, especially for the tier 9 tanks and what is going to be new, what is new in this update. Before I start about talking about everything, please make sure to hit the like button, to subscribe to my channel and never miss a video again. I will be also telling you in the end of this video when this update will be released. So first of all, we have here for 5 tanks new PBR, so new graphics for 5 tanks, and it's for the Foch 155, for the WZ121, for the T54E1, for the AMX 100, and for the LTTB. I also saw in older videos some guys were even asking what is the meaning of PBR. So yeah, the new graphics quality enables physically based rendering of materials. So PBR is physically based physically based rendering, okay, of materials. So we're going to have PBR, new PBRs, new graphics for that tanks that I told you. So yeah, here again in details, this is how the WZ121 will look like starting for the next update. Here again with the legendary camouflage. This is how the Foch 155 will look like. And here again with this legendary camouflage. The T54E1 gonna look like this. The AMX 100. And last but least, the LTTB. And now let's talk about the most important thing, I guess, for all the players, the changes for the tier 9 vehicle in this update 10.6. So here we can see the armor buff on the IS-8. It was like this on the left side at 10.5, and it will look like this at 10.6. So 10.6, sorry. So we can see really a huge buff on the armor, especially on the upper plate of this vehicle. Now let's talk about the other changes for every tank. So for the TL7120, it's a tier 9 collector heavy American tank. This tank will get more mobility and sorry, not more mobility. This tank will get just the consumable, the improved engine power boost. We got right now the normal one on it, and we will have that one with 40% more speed, so with a better improved engine power boost. This tank will be buffed from 250 hit points to 2100 hit points. The engine power will be nerfed from 640 to 626 horsepower, and of course with that the acceleration will be also nerfed. The E75, the German tier 9 tech tree heavy tank, will get more hit points, 100 more hit points, will get faster roll time, will be also buffed. That means automatically this tank will have a DPM buff from 2.260 to 2340 of DPM. So this tank will get more hit points and more DPM. The gun dispersion will be nerfed, but really not that big, so from 0.344 to 0.62, and the maximum view range of this vehicle will be also nerfed from 282.5 meter to 276.8 meter. The Kampfpanzer 70, the tier 9, of course, premium German heavy tank, will get a gun depression buff from -6 degrees to -7 degrees and no nerfs. And here we can see how this tank is going to look like using the -7 gun depression. Firstly, the upper side is for the 246 millimeter of penetration, and then with 320 millimeter heat. The Leopard PTA will get buffed in point of horsepower. This tank will have more horsepower, that means more acceleration, and this tank will also get more view range. That's really insane for the medium tank, good buffs, but for that this tank will receive really a strong DPM nerf from 3207 to 3087. And the penetration will be also nerfed from 255 millimeter to 245 millimeter, and penetration on heat will be also nerfed from 300 to 290 millimeter. The terrain resistances will be also nerfed, and effective actual acceleration on hard terrain will be nerfed, and the effective actual acceleration on medium terrain will be also nerfed, and we will feel those nerfs in point of acceleration in hard and medium terrains. This is also really a huge nerf in point of acceleration for this vehicle. The Object 752 will get an HP buff from 2k to 2050. The magazine reload time will be nerfed, and with that automatically the DPM will be also nerfed, but really not that huge, from 2487 to 2465. And the Object 452K, this tank is a tier 9 collector Soviet heavy tank. The dispersion will be buffed, which is also insane for this vehicle. We have really an awful gun dispersion on it, and the view range will be nerfed, but in my opinion that doesn't it's not a big difference to nerf the view range for a heavy tank. We don't need that big view range anyway for a heavy tank, but in general this is really a good buff for this tank, having a better accuracy on that card. This tank is anyway really so good, and now with a better gun dispersion this tank will be even better. The Centurion MK71, the turret traverse speed will be buffed, and also we're going to have for both heat and hash shells where the AP penetration nerfed from 255 millimeter to 245 millimeter, and the aiming time will be increased from 3.2 seconds to 3.3 seconds due to turret turning faster. The Vickers cruisers will have a reload time buff. This is insane. This tank will have, this is a huge DPM buff for the Vickers cruisers. A faster reload time, that means nearly 400 more DPM for this vehicle, and this tank will get even more hit points. So this vehicle is really a big winner in this update. And then the FV214 Conqueror will have a reload time buff, and with that of course a better DPM. We will have nearly 1 second faster reload time, and with that also nearly, let's say 200, how much actually exactly 250. Wow, this is 350 more DPM for this vehicle, and the forward speed will be also buffed from 34 km per hour to 37 km per hour, and no nerfs. Also the FV214 is a big winner in this update 10.6. The Type 62, the alpha damage will be buffed on both guns, as we can see there, and with that automatically the DPM will be better, will be higher, nearly 130 more DPM, and the hard traverse speed will be buffed, and also and the top forward speed will be nerfed from 40 to 37 km, but actually the Type 68 is actually more winner than loser in this update. The WZ114 will get a reload buff, and with that a DPM buff, of course, but really not a big difference from 2.161 to 2.189, so really a small buff. We will have an engine power buff. Acceleration will be with that better, but also not a big buff here in point of mobility and DPM. And the penetration will be nerfed. But all in all, the WZ 1.4 actually they didn't change a lot. Only very small buffs and small nerfs. We are really not going to feel that on the battlefield. The Char Future 4 or 4 will get the adaptive concealment mechanic, will be added to this tank. And the maximum view range will be buffed from 296 to 302, so this is a big view range buff for the Char Future. And the weight will be increased, and for that, of course, more weight. That means less acceleration. Yeah, we will have just a bit less mobility on this vehicle, but for that, more view range. So really, also small changes for this vehicle. Nothing big that we are not going to feel a huge difference for the Char Future 4 on the battlefield. The Foch will get a magazine reload time, will be buffed nearly 1 second, and with that we will have also nearly 130 more DPM on this vehicle. The hard reverse speed will be buffed, and the shell velocity will be nerfed. But also here again, small changes, and in my opinion, this is also not that big deal for the Foch in this update, just very small changes, but not big ones. The Skoda T50 will get a reload time buff, the intra-clip reload time from 2.5 seconds to 2.1 seconds. This is really insane. The dispersion will be buffed, better accuracy on this gun on the Skoda T50, and the aim time will be also better from 3.2 seconds to 3 seconds. So perfect. Those are really big buffs for the gun of this tank, but for that we will have less DPM, but not that big. Only, I don't know, less than, how much is it going to be nerfed here? Yeah, let's say around about 160 dpm less. The magazine reload time will be nerfed from 16.3 to 17.4, and the reverse speed will be nerfed from 20 km per hour to 17 km per hour, and the armor will be nerfed from 40mm to 30mm on the hull rear armor, so this tank will be just easier to be bashed and hashed by other tanks. The 50 TP will get an HP buff, gun dispersion buff, better accuracy, more hit points, only 50 hit points, and base aim time will be also buffed from 2.7 to 2.55, and estimated aim time will be also decreased. So we're going to have definitely a better accuracy on this gun. We have more hit points, but for that we have just a small top speed nerf from 48 km per hour to 45 km per hour. The regressor will have HP buff, so actually very similar to the 50 TP. We're going to have a better gun, better accuracy, a bit more of hit points, 50 hit points to be exactly, but for that less mobility on the reverse speed from 20 km per hour to 14 km per hour. And here we can see the difference. This is the armor of the T54E1. This tank will get a small turret buff, okay, and this is how it's going to look like. So now this side here for 245mm AP, and this here for 300mm. Again, view for 245mm and view for 300mm. This is how this tank is going to look like in the next update. Especially we are focusing here on the turret armor, frontal armor. So the turret will get a frontal buff and a buff from the side, but really very small. The side buff, it's bigger than the frontal buff, 26 millimeter more on the side, and 11 millimeter more on the turret front armor. The acceleration will be buffed, the weight will be decreased, the hull frontal armor for that will be nerfed, 27 millimeter less for the hull, and the magazine reload time will be also nerfed, and with that automatically we will have just, I don't know, 63 less of DPM. So not really a big deal on point of DPM nerf. This is here the moisten will get also a buff on the frontal armor, 10 millimeter on the turret, and this is how it is gonna look like. Here, for example, with the 246 millimeter view. Next story here is for the 320 millimeter view, and this is how it's gonna look like for a normal AP shell, 246 millimeter of penetration. So very hard to pen, even with heat shells, even with premium shells with 320 millimeter of penetration. But as always, we will have that lower plate is the weak spot of this tank. So the reload time of the moisten will be also buffed, but not that big deal, not a huge difference. And with that, we will have a DPM buff of, from 2185 to 2230. The maximum view range will be nerfed from 282 to 276. This is the E50, yep. And this tank will get an armor buff from the turret, frontal turret and hull and sight armor will be also buffed. 10 for the turret, hull, side, and also a bit more of turret frontal armor. And this is the view how it's going to look like for 290 millimeter penetration, and this is for 240 millimeter of penetration. So this tank will be also harder to penetrate in the next update. The gun dispersion of the E50 will be nerfed, and we're going to have a DPM buff, a small DPM buff we can see for the E50, so not that big deal. More armor, a bit more of DPM, but for that less accuracy, but also a small nerf on the accuracy of the E50. And the IS-8, we saw it in the beginning of the changes, will get an armor buff. This is how it's gonna look like for a 320 millimeter, and this is how this thing gonna look like for a 246 millimeter of penetration. So a big plate armor buff, from 120 millimeter to 132 millimeter. The hit points will be buffed, also a big buff, 200 more hit points, and the hard rover speed will be buffed. The weight will be increased, and for that the top forward speed will be nerfed, but also a small nerf from 45 to 41. The reverse speed will be nerfed from 15 to 13. The acceleration will be nerfed from 17 to 15.4, and the maximum view range will be nerfed for the IS-8 from 282 to 276. The next tank will be the T-54, and this tank will get acceleration bot, turret acceleration buff, turret and frontal turret armor buff, 12 millimeter more to be exactly, and this is how this thing gonna look like in front of 240 millimeter gun of penetration, and this is the view for 290 millimeter of penetration. The upper plate of this tank will be nerfed from 132 to 126. And finally, the T-55A will get upper plate armor buff, turret frontal armor buff. 18 millimeter for the hull more, and 14 millimeter more for the turret, more armor. The gun depression will be also buffed from 5 to 6 degrees. The reload time will be buffed, and with that automatically more DPM. We will have something about 200 more DPM on this vehicle roundabout. So also the T-55A will be stronger, and this tank really deserves to get better, because it was a premium tank this tank will be a collector tank. It's no more a premium tank, and this tank will get no nerfs in this update. And in my opinion, they should do it. I mean, this tank, it was a premium tank, now will be a collector tank. And why should people invest money on this tank if this tank is actually not better than the Tech 3 tank? And then with this buff, I think Wargaming, they are listening finally to people complaining about that. People like me who are saying why this is a premium tank if actually there is better Tech 3 tank like this one. So now they buffed it, and maybe they can even sell it finally, sell it better or with a good reason for the players. This is the view of the frontal armor of this tank. This view here with a 240mm gun, and this is the view for the armor of this vehicle against a 290mm gun. Here we go. So this tank will be definitely an insane hull down vehicle in the next update. Yeah, and with that we arrived to the end of this video, guys. We talked about all the changes which are going to come in the next update, about the new graphics, about all the changes for the all tier 9 vehicles. And yeah, this update will be released in something about 4 to 5 weeks from today, from the day I'm uploading this video here. That means end of January 2024 or in the beginning of February 2024. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, guys. If yes, you know what to do. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and see you soon in the next one, guys. Bye bye.